Welcome everybody, and thanks for being there. We are very happy and very lucky of having you there, such a dream team for dealing with the topic today. Please, first of all, as you know, your mix will be mute, and if possible, please switch off your video also if you are not one of the speakers, so not to overwhelm our bandwidth. Thank you so much. We are here today to talk about sustainable tourism. You know that tourism is a very important sector for economies in the small cities. And we have three great speakers and an even greater expert, urban expert, to talk us about the impact on tourism in small cities, changes the cities could do, and good practices that these small cities can apply to improve and implement the sustainable tourism. Okay, now we are going to the venue of this event. I'm sharing my screen so you can see our venue is Hospital Simon Reed. You know, this is an example of how to give a new use to the heritage. This building is a former hospital from the 16th and 17th century, which has been transformed into a multi-purpose hub for dynamizing the area of Medina del Campo. And it will be a great reference point for economic development in the city. And as I told you before, it's an example of how to give a new life to the heritage. You can see the inner part, the cloister of the building, and here the opening ceremony with the development minister of Spain. And we have good news relating to the Simon Reed building. We have received funds and approval, both at regional and a national level for the next stages of the works. And the works are progressing faster than expected, which is a great news. Hopefully next time you'll be in Medina, you'll be able to see in person the results. Some pictures of the use of the new rooms for presentations, for activities. Another room with the furniture implemented. You can see also the chapel, you know. And we can also hold there all kind of activities, such as mapping activities, which are very renowned in Medina, thanks to Mapping Me. And talking about tourism in Medina, we want to become a touristic hotspot, and we want to highlight the rich heritage we have, and also the gastronomical and wine-related resource, and especially a participatory strategy to involve both visitors and inhabitants of the city in the touristic events, such as you can see there, the Renaissance Fair, which is a participatory event which brings to life the Renaissance into Medina, into current Medina. You will see more about that when with Alberto's presentation. Okay. Well, finally, related with tourism and with economical development, we can tell you that this project is very important for us, the iPlace project, because we value a lot the participatory and networking related approach of the ARCBAC projects, in which we can share and learn from another cities in the European Union. And I think that's all. Thank you for your attention. I'm going to to pass the torch to Alisa Vlasic, an urban expert and OLG coordinator of tourist-friendly cities from Dubrovnik, Croatia. Alisa, it's your turn.
Thank you, Juan. Let me just set it up. I think since we don't have so much time for this webinar and we have so many interesting stories to hear, I would just jump right into the story. So within this short kind of a presentation to give an overall image of what we are talking about today, I want you to keep three things in mind. First one is that the tourism industry is one of the largest and fastest growing industries. This is a fact. And although the revenue has decreased so much during this period, it is assumed that it's going to jump back up quite fast. The advantages for the city developing the tourism are multiple. From the economic advantages, it is one of the sectors that increases the jobs a lot, but also small family businesses. The social advantages, the infrastructural advantages that we are going to mention a little bit later on as well. But the third fact, which really keep in mind, is that the development of the cities in overall should always be based on diversification of the economy. And I think it's really important today to focus on the potentials and the benefits that tourism can have on small, medium-sized cities as one other industry, economic industry to be developed, but really to develop it in kind of merging together, integrated into an overall economic and social development of the city. Not getting too much into detail, but I think it is important to mention that the international tourist arrivals have increased from 25 million to 1.5 billion in only about 70 years. It does account for about 10.3 GDP in EU and about 11.7 of total employment. And I think this data only shows us how much is European Union focused on tourism, and just saying that it aims to come up to a 41% of the global tourism market, the European tourism. You can really see how much potential there still is. On the right side, you can see some of the statistics of the OECD. So the data is a little bit maybe lower, but it's on a larger scale, let's say. We hear a lot about sustainable tourism. It's something I like to say, you hear it constantly. At one point, you just forget about what it actually means. We basically very often think of sustainable tourism as something connected only to the environment, but actually sustainable tourism is a much wider concept. It relates to the quality of life of the local population, of the economic vitality, of carrying capacity of the city, the overall social and environmental impacts. The responsible tourism is actually more about taking responsibility for making the sustainable tourism and giving this responsibility to the visitors, to the host inhabitants, to the citizens, and to the businesses as well, which is very important to also keep in mind. The eco-tourism or the ecological tourism is a form of a responsible tourism, so traveling responsibly in a more protected natural areas that we are going to hear a bit of an example later on today. And the voluntourism as a form where the tourists actually volunteer and they want to give back something to the community that they arrive to. And I think it's very important to keep all these four concepts in mind, because I think within this period, with the whole COVID situation and everything, I think one of the future trends is actually going to be a lot focused within these four areas, and the smaller and medium-sized cities can be kind of in a lead to obtain them. If the participants, the listeners of this webinar are cities that are thinking of developing tourism as a one new economic niche, I think it's very important to start the planning of the tourism development, keeping in mind a certain strategy, let's say. First, it's important to analyze the current situation that the city is in. The surveys or some other type of asking the residents' attitude towards the local tourism development is really important. I think the involvement of key local stakeholders in the whole process is crucial, and very often cities, local authorities don't really do it, but it can really save a lot of money. It can save, cut costs, and it can be so much more efficient and give a bit of ownership to the local community. Also, to create a land usage plan to detect and evaluate existing and potential attractions that the city has and that could be interesting to the visitors, analyze the market, select your city target market where you want to go, create an investment plan. And here I would want to stress out that whatever you plan to do within this investment plan, always think of multi-purpose. So all the facilities, everything that you do, keep in mind that it's really important for the citizens to use them as well, not only the tourists. And the development of the city tourism really helps maintain the cultural facilities. Juan mentioned some examples in Medina del Campo, but developing tourism actually provides some additional source of income for these institutions, which very often have challenges with funding. And integrating the objectives of the city tourism development, bringing them basically in line with the economic and the social objectives of the city, so not dividing them from them. UN World Tourism Organization went a little bit further within this, and they gave some examples of strategies for managing visitors' growth in cities. And I won't go through all of them, but I think it's very important to keep a notion of how much they focus on dispersal of visitors within the city. So not focusing only on the city center or a certain area, but also a time-based dispersal of visitors. So it's never really advised to focus to make your whole touristic strategy based on an event, on a festival or a season, being only a summer season city and so on. So trying to find something that can kind of broad up the tourism development throughout the year. And by doing this, you can help out in avoiding challenges like seasonal employment and things like that, which can come up with later on. You need to ensure that the local communities benefit from tourism as well. And what is a better way to do that than involving the local citizens inside in the whole working of it. The facilities and the tourist attractions that are developed as part of the city tourism strategy, it usually helps developing some other related services, local businesses. For example, if you're thinking of building a hotel, for example, the small local businesses usually come up right around it, the restaurants or the bars of craftsmen shops and things like that. So these are a couple of examples of strategies for managing the visitor growth in the city. Once the city is kind of on the road towards the tourism development, I think it's very important to set up to measure the performance and progress over time in relations to the sustainability. There have been a couple of world leading organizations that provide some tools for policymakers, organizations such as Global Sustainable Tourism Council, GSTC, or the UN World Tourism Organization, but also the European Commission developed a European Tourism Indicator System, in short ETIS, that provides the management tool. So it gives the cities a whole toolkit, including the management tools, so some supporting to support the destinations on the monitoring system, very easy to use, how to collect data and some detailed information about it, and the information tool. I have put a link to the toolkit here. whoever is listening to us through the social media, if you can just drop in your email maybe on the comment box, and we can send you the presentation later on so you can check out the details afterwards. In Dubrovnik, I was really personally very honored to be part of one assessment that was conducted in city of Dubrovnik in 2019. It was done by GSTC organization, and so the assessment on the destination sustainability. And it was, although Dubrovnik is leaving the whole tourism for ages, it was very interesting to pass through this whole process, and about 70 key stakeholders. We went through 4 main pillars, and the first one is the sustainable destination management and the governance. And here we looked at the stakeholder engagement a lot. Then we moved on to the economic benefits to the local community, protection of the cultural heritage, since Dubrovnik is basically really focused on the cultural heritage, and the environmental protection and the conservation. Again, since we don't have so much time to go very much in detail, I put the link to the document here. So if you are interested, there are really interesting materials and step-by-step procedures on how to go about it. As Juan mentioned, I am a proud member of another Urbact network. It's called Tourism Friendly Cities, an action planning network. We are focused on how tourism can be made sustainable in medium-sized cities. As you can see on the map, it's a network of 10 European cities. We are led by Genova municipality. And as you can see from the map, we have cities that have, let's say, more developed tourism and cities that are less developed tourism, but as well that are facing some more challenges or less. So it's quite interesting, the whole network work. When we started our work, we said we will focus on 3 sub-themes. So the first one being not in my backyard approach, so the perspective on tourism from the side of the city and its residents. The second one was from the tourist's perspective, and the third one from the private sector perspective, so the global businesses with local impact. And then very, very soon after we started with our project, the whole pandemic, the COVID-19 hit us, and we had to kind of modify ourselves. So at one point we found ourselves talking about tourism when there was absolutely no tourism. And looking out for the trends and everything, we decided to input the 4th sub-theme, calling the integrated health and safety in a new model for sustainable tourism. And right now we are working a lot on this. We are trying to come up with indicators for our cities, but we are very focused and strong still to talk about and to keep our focus on sustainable tourism, even the tourism is quite low at the moment. Some of the first data resulting from the COVID-19 says that about 100 to 120 million jobs are at risk in tourism sector, because the tourism fell for about 72% in only 10 months of 2020. UNWTO was one of the first organizations that came up with some priorities for tourism recovery. And as you can see, they focus a lot on the liquidity, on job protection. They focus on gaining confidence back for the safety, for the traveling, but also on the coordinated protocols and procedures, which I personally think is going to be quite challenging to kind of harmonize and coordinate all EU countries. You will see the link down here regarding some recovery resources, and also a link to the Safe Travels Global Protocols down here. The Safe Travels, the World Travel and Tourism Council came up with a list of protocols on how to behave in various occasions. So in the airport, in the shopping, in traveling, in taking transportation, and so on. So it's quite interesting, the material that is out there that is really worthwhile to, as a city, to kind of look at it, because these are the trends that are waiting for us, and to prepare the city for them. This is just one of the examples that I wanted to share. regarding how to reopen tourism door to door. And as you can see, a lot of focus is here on the physical distancing, on contactless doing of businesses, of services, and so on. But basically, what I wanted to kind of stress out is that all these trends, the digitalization of tourism as well, if we can say it like that, it's something that was here pre-pandemic time. It's just that within this period, it has only accelerated. But I don't think we should be scared of it, because it's something that it's out here. I think we should really use this period right now, the very challenging period, but to use it as an opportunity for growth and to improve and to rethink our tourism and our service economy on local, regional level. Look out for the possible behavioral change. The psychologists already now make some conclusions, and I think reading all of them, I think that the smaller size cities, more remote destinations are actually in a bigger advantage, which only means that you should really focus on fixing your infrastructure. So make yourself available, but keep yourself small and separated a bit. The building of the infrastructure for sustainable tourism and taking into the consideration where we are, I think the European, the financial support for sustainable tourism is going to be really substantial. I think that's it. My time is up. Yes, Juan, thank you. I don't know if there are any comments, but if anybody has a comment, or if you are from a city that is having some tourism, please feel free to comment down and say what is your city doing about health and safety, about recovering tourism, and so on. So we'd love to hear about it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation, Alisa. Okay, if you have some comments, you can keep them for the discussion time, because we are with a little delay. And we are going to pass now to the Valentina presentation. Valentina is tour guide of the Maremma Toscana, and she will speak on behalf of the municipality of Grosseto. Valentina, your time.
Yes, I'm going to share my screen just a little bit. So, Grosseto is a very particular kind of town, of city, because it's located in Tuscany, in the southern part of Tuscany, in a special region called Maremma. In Maremma, we have the fortune to have small towns, small cities, quite distant from each other, and a big space, big green space to share with tourists that are interested in sustainable tourism. So our kind of tourist is a tourist that is searching for nature. And our main attraction is the natural park of Maremma. So we have a natural park going from the seaside to interior land, having beautiful beaches and historical and archaeological sites. And it preserves also a very quite ancient style of life with the wild breeding and sustainable agriculture. So what we are doing inside this park is to lead people to know how tourism can be sustainable. So we do a lot of things about, for example, didactical lessons to know nature, or we do some events for involving population and citizens also to clean, for example, beaches at the beginning of the summer season. And we see that events are most appreciated. Another asset that we have are archaeological and artistic parks that are places to disclosure history, culture, and also sustainability. Because, for example, we have an artistic park, this is the Tarot Garden, that is completely made by sustainable and recycled materials. So sustainability is very present in our region. Grosseto too is a sustainable city. We are going to improve our sustainability. Well, it's a lucky city because it's built on a plain, so it's not necessary to move with cars or other kind of vehicles, but we can, for example, move very easily by bicycle. And this is the reason why Grosseto municipality is very engaged on improve this kind of mobility. Grosseto is a small city, so it's a part of this project that is called the Small Town Project. It's a Tuscan project that brings people to know small towns. This has been developed after the pandemic of COVID-19. Because we saw also in Tuscany that tourism had changed. So people didn't search for big cities, but was interested in small towns and what are the treasures of small towns. Of course, history, but also quiet atmosphere, good food, good wine, and fresh air. Okay, so what we are going to do is to improve thematic tours to involve people in try to live in a different kind of life, more sustainable life. One of the most important challenges of Grosseto municipality is the Tyrrhenian cycle route. This goes together with the improvement of cycle paths in the city, but also on the coast. Tyrrhenian cycle route is a special web of cycle paths going from Ventimiglia to Rome. So it covers 1,200 kilometers of paths, and it could be a real web of paths, cycle paths that could be used by tourists, but also by citizens, by the local population. And another niche of our sustainable improvement is education. We think that education is very important to sensibilize people to learn how to be sustainable. And this is the case of this big project called the Le Vie dei Medici. That is a touristic and didactical project. It has started in schools, and it has become a project for Tuscany, but also for Italy, because Medici family where the governor of the Grand Duchy of Tuscany, starting from 16th century, and they built a lot of important archaeological and historical sites all over Italy, and also in some places in France and Europe. So what's important about this project is to improve and probably become European, because this could be a result on archaeological and historical and didactical tourism in a sustainable way. So that's all. These are some of our contacts if you are interested in learning something more. And thanks you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Valentina, for your enlightening presentation. And now, without further delay, we are giving the word to Ivar Rukel, the founder and manager of Soma Tourism from the Suma Nature Reserve. Please, Ivar, go ahead. Ivar, make sure your mic is on, please.
Yes. So, thank you very much. I hope you also see my screen. Do you?
Yes, yes.
And it's a pleasure to be here, to have this opportunity. So I am here from a town of Pärnu, which is in Estonia, second from the north, if you look at this map, and will within next 5 minutes tell you about the challenges and opportunities that I see from my personal experience connected to the sustainable development of tourism. So I am sitting in a Pärnu right now, and but Pärnu is also a town, but a region, and part of this region is Soma National Park. So my presentation is focusing on the case of this park. It's a wilderness area, and this is where I have been working for the last 25 years, running nature trips. So it's an area of a national park since '93, and been developed for the tourism since that. So before establishing the national park, there was no tourism at all during the Soviet time, and already when joining when Estonia joined the European Union, it became also the area of Natura 2000, and we have been together, the National Park Administration, local businesses, local municipalities in and around the park. We have been in several initiatives and schemes of sustainable development, of tourism, and here you see a lot of them. I have no time to go through all of them, but in 2009 we was winning the Eden Award. From same year we also was certified as a Pan Park. And Alisa mentioned the European Tourism Indicator System. This is also what we have been using for sustainability work in our area. And just recently, last December, we have been certified by Europark, the biggest network of national parks in Europe, and the Charter for Sustainable Tourism of this. So these are the kind of tools that we use, and as we know, these are often connected to the different aspects of sustainability. So in my presentation, I would like to challenge you a little bit about how we see this concept. So often it is said it's kind of a balance between these things, the environment, our planet, like the natural boundaries, but also the social aspects or social, economic or cultural. And what actually, by my experience, happens in a real life, it is something that it is also called Mickey Mouse sustainability. So often developers, politicians, authorities, they say, oh, let's make the economy first, and then the rest comes, the rest follows. But in a real life, of course, especially now, when we have been get the messenger, the famous virus, more people start to understand that there is actually a different set of these components, kind of core-centric interdependence. And we cannot really go out from the ecological boundaries, the physical boundaries, you can also say, of our nature, our natural environment. And then the social, it is to be filled the needs of the people. And often there is a conflict also if we talk about the needs or the wishes. So I think in the future, I do not really agree with what Alicia said, that everything will be soon the same and tourism will grow again in the tempo that we have seen last 10 or 20 years. I think nothing will be the same now in tourism as well. And to think in a different way, this is the main challenge in our tourism sector, but of course also in other sectors. So here are another examples of the sustainability development goals. So people, we tend to see everything like in a boxes, like a machine. And in this way, it's very nice to pick a few components, few goals out of 17 and work on them and report some nice progress. But actually, more important is how these things are interconnected. And again, you see, I cannot speak very much, but you can see that the water, nature, biosphere, it makes in the same way the kind of boundary of everything. And then there are some other goals that are about social aspects. And then the economy, it is just a tool. So we should see in the future also tourism more kind of on a systemic level. And the illustration, it is picked from the Stockholm Resilience Center. So also in a science, these kind of fairy tale of balancing things, and in a real life only focusing on a growth, economic growth, it is a yesterday. So another aspect, of course, of sustainability is cultural aspects. Here is just one example from our area, our park, about how tourism could be also a tool for preservation of the cultural aspects. For our case, the heritage of making and using traditional dugout boats. So the main challenge, what I see in tourism sector, and actually it's a more general challenge, is that we should see us as a part of the nature instead of seeing us as something that is separate from it. And the crisis with this famous virus, it is actually just followed by the more important crisis of the climate and even more about the loss of habitats, the loss of species, and the degradation of biodiversity. So tourism here should rethink its own nature and not see it as something that we can manipulate that in a boxes and kind of industrially, but rather see it as an ecosystem, see it as connections of different businesses, of course, in a local level, but also in a global level, and all this interrelationship of these various players. So I hope I use my 5 minutes, and looking forward for interesting discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was very interesting, a little bit more than 5 minutes, but it's okay. We are going now with our third speaker, Alberto Lorente Scythe, which is founder of CREA 360 and external assistant to Medina del Campo in the ARBAC projects. So please, Alberto, it's your time.
Hello, thank you very much. Do you see my presentation?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, so I'm going to share with you the experience of Medina del Campo about a participatory approach, organizing a Renaissance Week. That is a huge event that Medina del Campo organizes during summer in August since 2012, and it has an economic impact of more than 4 million of euros every year. I'm talking about this experience as representative of city-centered doctor, because Medina del Campo also was a part of that project. Okay, this experience started in 2012 in Medina del Campo, the city of fairs. Historically, Medina del Campo is named as City of Fairs because traditionally, since the 16th century, it was famous because they were organized in Medina del Campo, the Kingdom Fairs, and it was very famous during the 16th century, during the Renaissance age. Medina del Campo counts on a lot of heritage related to that age, to that time, and just during the planification, during the planning of the tourism and commerce plan for 2007 and 2011, citizens decided to create a specific event, a specific historical recreation to put in value the heritage and also try to attract tourists and new economies. The participatory experience in Medina del Campo started from the Agenda 21 in 2002, and we can say that the Medina del Campo still continues with and was continuing during different stages with different plans. And nowadays the local development plan, the city development strategy, is also based on that philosophy. During this time, just in this period between 2007 and 2011, citizens decided to create this historical recreation about that time during the Renaissance age, just in the century 16th and 17th. They plan to organize this event focused on two dates, okay, and two different groups. Just taking the example of other cities in Spain that also do also historical recreations, they plan to have two different kind of themes and two different moments. 15th of August for the recreation of the group called Imperiales, and 21st of August for the group called Comuneros. this difference between comuneros and imperiales is because in the 16th century it happened one of the most important historical moment in Medina del Campo that was called a war. It was a war, okay, the Comuneros War, because it was a revolution from several towns in Castilla against the emperor, against the King Charles V, these were called comuneros because they didn't accept the new laws that Charles V, the emperor, tried to put to all the kingdom. So comuneros started with a revolution, and imperiales, who were the official soldiers of the emperor, just fight against the comuneros, against the revolution. And for example, one of the most important moments in that fight, in that war, was when Charles V burned the city, just to kill everybody. And now Medina del Campo tried to recreate those moments, okay? Then they have two main scenarios, just the Plaza Mayor that some of you already visited, and the castle that you also know. Here you can see one example of the recreation when the Charles V, the emperor, burned the city. No, this is a recreation of the fire, for example. There is a participatory structure. All the organization of this event is based on participation. So the municipality, the city hall acts as facilitator of the venues, of the spaces, licenses, etc., etc. And then there are sponsors, and then there are also local associations of citizens, the imperiales, that is one group, and comuneros. And from those groups, there are associations, volunteers, citizens in general, etc., etc. And also, we must say that also the city hall, the different departments of the municipality, also works on relation other kind of activities like commerce, the organization of the markets, organization of other different activities, etc., etc. Tourism, promotion. This festivity started in 2012, and year by year until this year was improving. Of course, last year Medina del Campo didn't organize this festivity because of the COVID, but we can say that until 2019, this festivity grew and grew year by year. All citizens who participate in this festivity are volunteers. Okay, they did an important historical research work to start organizing this festivity. For example, one curiosity is, for example, at the beginning, some volunteers dressed up and wear sunglasses, and just the next year, someone says, please don't put sunglasses because in that age didn't exist, for example. And year by year, doing a research and they try to improve the performance. They also organize trainings for, I don't know, music, for improve dresses, etc., etc. Also to do performances about horses battles or challenges, etc. In order to, as I say, improve and create new performances, etc., etc. Thanks to this festivity that year by year is becoming more important, also new associations appear in the city. Just new groups of citizens started to create their own association. For example, a group of soldiers that in that age exist and is not represented yet in the fair. And someone says, okay, we are going to create this group of soldiers and we are going to create this performance, for example. And year by year, there are new associations and new cultural groups. For example, this one is an association. Okay, it's an official order of the king that already existed several centuries ago, but it was more or less disappeared. And some citizens of Medina del Campo decided to reestablish it and recover it. For example, there are also complementary activities to improve and make this experience bigger and stronger, as for example, dances, cultural visits to the heritage, some markets and activities for children, etc., etc. And also, since in 2019, Medina del Campo also mixed this Renaissance Week with the mapping festival, just projecting colorful projections in the heritage. I have shared with you in the WhatsApp group the inauguration of the Simon Ruiz building, where you can see an example of this festival, mapping festival. Again, here the representation of the burning of Medina. Also here you have some projection with this mapping methodology. Also some example of how streets are during these days. This is an infographic where you can find all the activities, all the places, etc., where the two main spaces, etc. And we can, talking about data, we must say that this event counts on more than 100 collaborators, more than 4,000 volunteers and citizens just participating in the organization of the event with the performances, etc., etc. And we must say that Medina del Campo counts on 20,000 inhabitants, and 4,000 inhabitants are participating as volunteers in this festivity. This event counts on more than 120 program activities, involves also organizations from different regions and European countries, and counts on more than, or can reach more than 100,000 visitors in 1 week every year. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alberto, for your presentation and for representing Medina. Well, finally, we are having a discussion panel moderated by Alisa. So, Alisa, it's you to have the leading, and anyone who has a question can put it on the chat or open the mic and speak, especially the three speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. I would kindly ask right at the beginning for Alberto, Tiago, Ivar, and Valentina to open their mics and the cameras, just to kind of join in the conversation. I think we've heard so many really interesting presentations, first starting a little bit from the theory and so on, but really following up on some real examples from the local ground. I think that if I can ask all of you, you can kind of volunteer on who to respond, or maybe go straight to Tiago, since we did not hear of him at the beginning, and just give us a short reflection on what you've heard, and maybe your opinion on, or maybe advice to the smaller size cities on how to approach to tourism, to development of tourism.
Hello, Elisa and Juan. Thank you for promoting this. Hello, all cities of iPlace and other participants. About sustainable tourism, we heard from these case studies many good experiences, examples, principles. But just to have some reflections, and then I will pass the word. Normally, small cities, they don't face a big over-tourism like big cities in Europe. Of course, there are specific cases that I believe is the case of Dubrovnik, and there are many other cities that face that, but just in a specific season, like the coastal cities or cities related with the winter sports, for example. But actually, what I think could be interesting for us, for the average small cities in Europe, is to promote the development of the cluster on tourism, but using the principles of the sustainable tourism in order to promote it correctly. So what I'm thinking about is, if we want to promote the tourism, look for all the year, to don't have a seasonality that stress the city during, for example, the summer, and don't have tourism in the winter. Because for entrepreneurs, for investors on the tourism sector, is very important, an indicator of the presence of tourism during all the year. Because sometimes cities, to promote tourism, they believe that having big events is the best they can do, because they attract lots of people. But actually, when cities have a big event, what happens is that every hotel is overbooked, and then of course it spreads the impact to other cities, to other neighborhoods. But actually, if, for example, the event is in summer, where the taxes of the rates of use of the beds are high, the impact is very low, because the difference will not make lots of economy benefits. But I think there is a framework that everyone should think about when they think and promote the tourism sector. For one side, we want to create jobs, and that is very important. So tourism should benefit the community, and the best way is promoting jobs. But not only jobs. Jobs is the direct impact, the direct opportunities. But we should look for tourism as an opportunity to also create economic positive spillovers. What I'm thinking about is that we should look for a tourist as a potential future investor, and we should have the strategies implemented in our city to connect the visitors, the tourists, with the idea to invest after the visit in our cities, in our territories. But also they can be future inhabitants, for example. They can be future customers of our products by themselves and by their families. They experience the wine of Grosseto, for example, and then if they met on the visit the wine, maybe they want to import it for their countries after that, using an online store, for example. But sometimes the visitors, they also have companies, and that companies that want, maybe they can want to retail your products. So we should have strategies to promote our products during the tourists' presence in our cities, in order to scale it. Of course, there are the other side, and we need to try to avoid environment negative impact, noise. We should take lots of care on waste management. But we should maximize the economic benefits and the social benefits that tourism can promote. And so with this reflection, I will pass the word, and then maybe I can contribute after.
Thank you, Tiago, it's a really good reflection, and kind of summing it up on what we've heard today. Ivar and Valentina, would you like, and Alberto, of course, would you like to add something to this one?
I think this concept of carrying capacity, it has been here for 20, 30 years, but few people understand what it means really in a tourism context. It's just something, like a nice buzzword. But now, also because of the coronavirus, we know the concept of flattening the curve. So if our hospitals get full, then they are full. And actually, maybe this helps also us to understand about too many people in the places. Of course, we don't hear so often about over-tourism in small places, because small places are not that famous as Venice or Barcelona, where this same phenomenon gets very much published. But of course, today nobody is speaking about over-tourism anymore.
Exactly, I couldn't agree more. But I think it is important to also think of the carrying capacity, even in the smaller cities, because the carrying capacity is a lot lower in the smaller cities. So we should think about it. But getting back into the investment attraction that Tiago started mentioning, Alberto, Valentina, maybe if you want to reflect on your opinion of how much of this investment attraction happened in your city while developing tourism. Do you find that this is an area that the city has benefited from tourism?
In Grosseto, we live from tourism. We are an agricultural and touristic city. So for us, it's very important to improve the touristic part of our economy. And I think our investment goes more and more to specialized and thematic tourism. I think that for us, the niches of improvement are in, for example, experience tourism. This is what I think about. What I'm thinking about. For example, I don't know, if you want to try to cook pasta, maybe you can make it too. We are in Tuscany, so we are, I know Italy is known all over the world for its food culture. So why not going in that direction? Or maybe, I don't know, if you are interested in archaeological tourism, maybe you can do some didactical labs and experience lab in constructing, in building something. We have a lot of experimental archaeologists who do this for living. You know, there is a very special site near Grosseto. It's called Rocca San Silvestro, where a very good archaeologist, a friend of mine, built a new medieval town as it was in the past, with people, with tourists and with people. So it was very interesting.
I think this is exactly what we were talking about, how tourism actually builds the economy around it as well. It's not something very excluded. It kind of merges also the local businesses, and it just connects it all, and the growth of the city. I want to move back to the seasonality, Alberto, and ask regarding Medina del Campo. So you mentioned the event, the festival that you have. What are your approaches to make tourism more of an all year long? What are your tries, activities, something that you have tried and maybe can advise to other cities to look at? You are muted. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I must say that Medina del Campo started to develop its tourism offer, or its touristic sector, since the beginning of this century. So it's something that is quite new, but it was related to also wine production. So as the main economic sector of Medina del Campo is wine production, one of the biggest production of white wine is in the area of Medina del Campo, they started to develop this offer of wine tourism. And also related to wine tourism, they create an association, also from these participatory strategies. They also decided to create a wine route together with other municipalities that are together with them, just to not be only one small town just trying to challenge it with tourism. So all the county, we must say, is focused on this wine tourism offer. And also they are together also bidding to other kind of offers related to cultural tourism or heritage. For example, related to Charles V Emperor, there are several towns where also the emperor was living or just doing some activities. And for example, they are part of the European cultural path of the heritage of Charles V. They also, Medina and the neighbors, are involved in the Spanish Association of Historical Recreations, etc., etc., etc. Also about Eastern. So the strategy is in this way, we must say that be collected with the, or connected, sorry, with the neighbors, and together offer a good offer of tourism and services during the year, cultural activities. We can say, for example, this wine tourism related activities, etc., etc. And just in summer they have this peak or this big event, but during the year of this offer that we can say that Medina is a small city, so we don't want just thousands and thousands or millions of visitors. Yeah, with a small percentage or a small amount, we I think the economy it's good, and also it's just the offer for example, every weekend. For example, people from Madrid or from other big cities can go there and stay and relax, visit some places, taste wine, etc., etc.
Thank you, Alberto. It's a really actually a good final point, commenting on the domestic tourism. I think we overlook it so much, but within this whole period with pandemics, a lot of cities are actually focusing so much on the domestic tourism and on a national based tourism. I'm trying to be conscious of time. I know we are over time, but we have questions from our YouTube channel. So I'm just gonna read it out. So how do you think that digitalization can help exactly to make tourism more sustainable? Have you thought about this in detail? Do you have any concrete examples of your projects that you can share? So I'm opening this question to all the panelists. If you can comment on it, just, okay, Alberto, Valentina.
For example, in the case of Medina del Campo, they are just now investing efforts to, for example, do 3D recreation of the cultural buildings, for example, about the heritage. They are doing also 3D recreations of moments in the past, for example, just for the visitors to have these 3D experiences. And also they are, how to say, the mapping, the video mapping festival is also something that is related to new technologies, and also is a current attraction that year by year Medina del Campo organizes, just in order to promote the cultural heritage of the city. This could be some examples.
Thank you, Valentina.
The same in Grosseto, we are working to with 3D representations, and also especially museums, for example, during the pandemic, but also nowadays, organizes some interviews and guided tours of the structures in special days of the week, for example, every Wednesday, every Friday. So this is used for promotion, but also for people who cannot go there in person.
Perfect, thank you. Tiago, Ivar, maybe do you have any examples of the using digitalization, making tourism more sustainable? Maybe especially within the national park. Have you included digitalization within your products?
In our,
I have heard. Sorry.
Sorry.
Please.
Yeah, in our case, we have been only thinking about the virtual tours, and not really implemented any. But of course, there are a lot of examples. I mean, Amazon is now running virtual tours, and many different channels what to use for a local guide for virtual tours, but not yet. But also reflecting to the previous question about the seasonality. So for our case, in our park, we never had as many winter visitors as this year. And it means Estonian domestic market, because of the restrictions of travel, and because of really discovering nature more. People are really coming to the park, and even in the winter time when we have a snow on a street and ice and -10. So it has also some positive sides.
Thank you. Thanks, Tiago.
Well, continue on this question of seasonality. Just to know that when we reflect in our product as a tourism destination, we identify some things that just can happen in winter. For example, nowadays we are promoting fireplaces as places to visit and to enjoy. So we are promoting pictures of fireplaces from our restaurants, our hotels, because we identify that in the winter is what tourists want to enjoy. But for example, we have many rivers in Amarante, we have some traditional sports in the river. And now we are promoting rafting, because we can only play rafting in winter when there are many water in the river and we have the rapids. So this is the kind of view that we should look for our cities. What are the activities that are especially from this season? And let's create content, let's create videos, let's storytelling it. Let's go for digital marketing. And I think actually the digitalization, the best part is the capacity that we have to promote our products digitally for the ones that have that specific interest. And so we are investing a lot on that on our website, in promoting campaigns, online campaigns to achieve the kind of tourism that wants to live our experiences. And well, it's what we are doing.
It's actually very good, the point that you're making. Focus your marketing, focus your attention to the off-season part and develop products, then leave a little bit neglected the high season part and focus your attention. Thank you, Tiago. I think since we are 15 minutes overdue and I see Juan turning on and off the camera, maybe I could leave it to Juan to kind of give a final conclusion.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank you, all the speakers, you as an expert, all people watching both in Zoom and the other social medias, for your attention. And just a few words. We all are aware about the importance of tourism. As you said, it amounts about 11% of GDP, or it rises even higher in Spain and other tourism-based countries. But I want to highlight the importance of make a good planning about related to tourism, because you have to make a good analysis of your weak points or your strengths, and develop the necessary infrastructures for improve the tourism in your areas. But you have to bear in mind also not to lose your spirit, your essence, you know? And that would be the main point I would like to highlight. Make a good planning, but keep an eye on your spirit and your essence. And finally, I think, thanks again to everybody, and that's over.